Welcome to Daily Armor. Today we're going to be in Romans chapter 15, looking at verse number 4. Romans chapter 15 and verse number 4, and it says, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the Scriptures might have hope." I love that, comfort of the Scriptures. When I go back to the beginning of this, that whatsoever things were written, and we have the whole counsel of God, Old Testament, New Testament, it's written for our benefit. God had it planned out. I love that it says the things were written aforetime. When I looked up that written aforetime, it was prescribed. God gave us the prescription that we were going to need for really everything that we would experience in life, all the highs, all the lows, all the truly, truly true lows. He gave us a prescription, and we find that prescription is filled in His Word. It's filled with those things that we need when we need wisdom, when we need comfort, when we have questions, when we're at a valley of decision and we don't know which way to go, when there's an obstacle that's too big, when there's an enemy that's too big. All of these different scenarios that we go through in life, God has already wrote it aforetime. He already wrote it before. And we know that He knew what we were going to need when we were going to need it. And He knew it. He just, in His wisdom, knew exactly what to put in His Word. And I love that. He ordained it that way. He made announcements that way, prescriptions. He was painting us a picture. It says, I love this. It says, before the eyes. There's so many accounts in the Scripture that you can relate to what's going on, because maybe it's something that's going on in your life, or maybe it's something that has went on in your life, and you're like, oh, I was like that person. I've, looked at the life for me, the life of Peter. I was that one, and still, have a tendency to do it. Don't mean to. But I was that one that would constantly stick their foot in their mouth. I get excited and, or let's go for it. And, the Lord's always been like, whoa, take a step back, calm down, don't get ahead. And through His wisdom, He is teaching me patience, and He comforts me with that. When I get over exuberant. At the same time, that there's so many things that we need Him for, and He has left us love letters. He's left us messages. He's left us announcements. He's left us instructions. He's left us prescriptions, all in His Word, and it's just amazing. If I was to think about any scenario that I could come up with, my first thought is God is greater than that worst enemy. The previous devotion, I took us to Judges chapter 4, and the children of Israel were told to go to Mount Tabor, and that God was going to bring the enemy to them, but He was going to defeat the enemy. He was going to discomfit them. He was going to defeat the enemy for them. He was going to cause, a great uproar for them. And they had 900 chariots and these big iron chariots. They had all that. God used all that against them. They worshiped the God of the weather. God used that against them, because He used the weather and He used the heaviness of their iron chariots to be their defeat. And God is the only one that can do that. And what that means is that God is greater than any enemy that we can think of. And then I think about some things that I've just been noticing in the Scripture, that even He's greater than the weakest faith. He's even greater than when my faith is weak. It doesn't diminish His strength. It doesn't diminish who God is. It doesn't diminish His greatness when when I'm having doubts, or when I'm having fears, or when I'm having, questions, or when I don't exactly know what to do and I didn't exactly respond the correct way and I messed up again. It does not diminish who God is and how great He is. It doesn't diminish that. And then today I was thinking about my dear friend. I was on the way to the doctor today, and then I realized that 2 weeks ago I was on the way to the doctor. And the reason I was on the way to the doctor today is because I had to cancel this appointment 2 weeks ago because of my dear friend in the hospital. And, her life was in balance, and God, He had the decision, and He took her home at 10:30, 2 weeks ago, 10:30 at night. And He took her home to be with Him. And I just keep thinking, God, you're greater than the most horrible heartbreak. And my heart is broken for my friendship, but my heart is more broken for that husband and those adult children who no longer have their mother to come home to when they're, they both live out of state, and they don't have that mother to come home to, that mother that's praying for them, that's calling them, that's checking on them. And then those 3 children that were still at home. And I'm more heartbroken for them than my friendship. And I think about how bad I feel and how bad I miss her. And I know they miss her so much worse because she was such a greater part of their life. And I think about how good God is, and that He gave us this prescription for when we were going to need that comfort. And I know He's giving me stuff, and I know He's given them stuff. And He's greater than our greatest loss. He's greater. And I love that. He gave us this aforetime. He knew ahead of time those things that we were going to need. And if we read on in verse number 4, it says, we're written for our learning. So He's teaching us some things. He's given us some instructions. He's telling us how to get through things. He's telling us how to decide about things. He's telling us how to look at things, not look at so many decisions. If we're not careful, we'll make decisions out of fear. And God's not a part of that. He doesn't tell us to make decisions out of fear. He tells us all the time, do not be afraid. He doesn't want us to be fearful. And He gives us those instructions. We find them in here. It's not about what I say or what the pastor says or what your friends say or what the neighbor says or what the mob mentality even says. But it's about what does God say. And He tells us not to fear. And some of these things that we're reading about, and it's for our learning, it's because we're going to have to go through experiences where we're going to need to hold on to that. We're going to need that training. He's training us. Every time you are in His Word, you are receiving His training, His instruction, His prescription, His picture for you to visualize. I'm a visual learner, and He's got it in such detail that I can visualize that going on. I can visualize Peter, and I can visualize David up on the mountaintop surrounded by the enemy. He can hear them coming. They're hiding, and he can hear them coming. And I can hear him, I can visualize him being up there, and they're hidden maybe behind bushes or branches, and maybe it just makes me think of being like a Navy SEAL. And they hear that enemy coming, and there's yet nowhere else for them to go. And then God sends a messenger, and King Saul was pursuing them, and King Saul wanted to kill David so intently. There was nothing going to stop him, but a messenger came. And King Saul had to leave right there. He was right there on the brink of the best victory that he could ever think of. But God protected David because God had a plan for David. God said David was going to be the next king, and that's exactly what was going to happen. And it didn't matter who hated him, who wanted him dead. It didn't matter because God intervened. And so no obstacle that we have is greater than God. And yet there's things that happen and we don't understand and we don't get it. And it just blows our mind and it breaks our hearts. But yet God is greater than even any and all of that. And He says, this is what He tells us. We're going to learn. We're going to see the teaching, and we're going to have the instruction. And what does that do? It says that we through patience. So it's written for our learning that we through patience. It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. But if we're patient and we're keep reading his word. If you have to read the same Bible verse over and over again, and I have done that on many, many occasions, the Lord has reminded me over and over again not to lean upon my own understanding. Lean not upon mine understanding. I would say that over and over and over again. Proverbs 3. Lean not upon, the things I can't even comprehend. I can't even wrap my head around some things. But yet, if I push aside that and I just trust in the Lord and I'm patient, and it says here that through patience and comfort is that consolation. When you're trying to console somebody, and this is God is consoling us, and he's doing it through his word. He's consoling us. His word. I can say, I love you. But when God says he loves you, man, the weight behind that is so much more heavy. It is so much more amazing that when God says, I love you, that gets you through so many things, and it brings such comfort. It's just, it's kind of like you're lost for words. It brings such comfort. Whenever he's trying to comfort and he's encouraging and he's refreshing, when you're just at your wit's end, when your heart is just like you don't even have the strength to get out of the bed in the morning, yet God gives you another breath. He gives you a reason to get out of the bed. He gives you purpose to get out of the bed. He gives you that calling and that summons. That's what this comfort, he comforts us with giving us a purpose, and that he has a plan, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows it hurts, but he has comfort for those hurts, and we don't know how it's ever going to get better. But that's where he tells us, be patient, be consistent. You must endure, continue waiting, because comfort's coming. And it's coming through the Holy Scriptures when each and every time we get in there, and when we're praying, and when the Lord is speaking back to us. Comfort of the Scriptures, might have hope, that we might have hope. Now, hope isn't I think about something, I think so. It's not that kind of hope. It's an expectation. All my hope is in Jesus. That is my expectation, that no matter what, I expect Jesus to help me, to console me, to teach me, to take me to heaven. That even when my faith is weak, he is greater than my faith. Even when my strength is gone, he is greater than all strength. Even when that enemy is so large and I'm just surrounded, he is greater than all of them. All of them. He's greater than everything. And when my heart is just absolutely broken in two, he is greater than my worst broken heart. And I have an expectation that he is going to help. He's going to heal. He's going to help me continue. He's going to rebuild strength when it's needed. He's got a plan and a purpose in and through it all. In and through it all. He's got a plan and a purpose. And I just want to explore that a little bit more. I want to explore that God is greater. And he's greater than all kinds of things. He's greater than everything. He's greater than anything. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon.